Welcome to the MPIC session on the National Cyber League. I'm Dan Manson, and presenting with me today is Doug Spindler. I'm going to give the big picture of the National Cyber League, and Doug is going to give the perspective of someone who participated in the competition and the students' view. Doug had a number of students that played in the National Cyber League spring and fall.
Yep.
And he'll be able to give you some very good perspectives from that side. Those of us that ran the CCDC competition in the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, and in the Western region, we've been doing it for a number of years now. And we really believe in it. If you heard John's presentation talking about competitions, you saw how important it's been to the growth of CyberWatch and Cassia. It's been our opinion, though, that once a year is not enough. I had 10 teams compete in the Western Regional in 2010. John had many more teams. Only one team from a region gets to keep playing. Only one team goes to the Nationals. But in my case, I had 9 other teams that wanted more. They like the experience. They can't get enough of it. And to say you're going to play once a year, I don't think it makes sense. If you have a sport, it deserves a season. The CCDC is a playoff. It's March Madness. So there are state levels, regionals, and a championship. What we're trying to do with National Cyber League is the regular season, and along with that, have a championship game. A sport deserves a season. We believe what we do in the cybersecurity competitions is a sport. Founders, we had support from the National Cyber League for our spring pilot. George Washington University, Cybersecurity Policy and Research Institute, Cassia, CyberWatch, CyberWatch West, and MPIC were all partners. Which made it really cool is we have the right partners. We had partners from coast to coast that have experience in these competitions, and we had a shared vision. We ran 2 pilots. In the spring, we did a traditional CCDC type pilot where we had teams of 8 students that played in a competition. Actually, we started with 6 weeks. We had to cut back to 4. We had a 4-week virtual season, 1-week virtual playoff, but because of support from NSF, we were able to do a face-to-face championship at the Colloquium in Orlando, and that was a lot of fun. In the fall, we decided we wanted to go in the direction of measurements, individual measurements. We had several goals with NCL. One is to provide a way for kids to be involved in these competitions on more of an ongoing basis. 2 is to provide a way for this to be tied to learning objectives. John mentioned in his presentation the educational value of competitions. And in the fall, we were trying to tie directly to courses that taught Security Plus. We also believe in performance measurement. And that's something that CCDC doesn't do well today at an individual level. All the CCDC teams are measured as a team, but you don't know how the individuals on the teams perform. We know if we get down the road with individual measurement, industry is going to want that information. Just like an athlete who has stats that are compiled throughout high school or throughout college, that's how the pros know how good they are. In our spring pilot, these were the schools in the Western region. We have 3 divisions, West, Midwest, and East. So it's a nice cross-section of 4-year schools and community colleges. In the Midwest, we also had a good cross-section. Most of these schools have played CCDC. Some of these schools, this was their first experience, their first exposure to a cyber competition. And these were the teams in the Eastern Division. It was really cool to see the rivalries develop because some of these schools already had existing rivalries through CCDC, but this gave them a chance to develop more of a national rivalry. In week 1, we had a set of basic activities. The teams had 4 hours to complete the task. It was a very bare bones type of competition. It was not a competition where you had a red team. It was involved in attacking the blue team. So it was the blue team performing tasks. Week 2, we also had an incident response index. So it was more how do you respond to being attacked. It was more fleshed out. Teams received positive points for detecting the malicious activity and then documenting the incident to the white team. So it was more of a traditional CCDC white team, red team competition. Week 3, we had inject. So we added what happens in our cyber defense competitions is that they're scored by how well they keep services up, which is the way we started off the season. How well they perform business injects, which are requests to improve the business. The standard scenario in a CCDC is that you've been called in to replace the existing IT team, they've been fired. You have to run the business while you're under constant attack. You get scored by keeping services up, performing business injects, requests to improve services successfully, or do reports on how well your business is doing, vulnerability scanning, using various tools. And you lose points with exploits. If the red team successfully completes an exploit against you, you lose points, but you can gain some of those points back by an incident response report. Final competition was more in the forensics area. You have to analyze a packet capture file. You are scored on your ability to analyze the file and document what you found. And then the playoff was more of a traditional red team, blue team exercise. So this was probably the closest we had to an actual collegiate cyber defense competition. When we got to the playoffs, we took the top team from each division plus one wild card team. So there were 4 teams playing in the playoffs. Then we went to the championship. And I'm going to show the video that we made of the championship. It gives you an idea of how much the kids really get into this.
Now, the spectators, the co-equipment running system security education begin.
Not the best speaker. So the 2 teams involved with the championship were Manson and Poly Pomona from the West Coast and Poly University from the Midwest. They came down to Orlando, Philadelphia. They had dinner together the night before, got to know each other, and then the next day they played in this recorded after the flag competition. An offensive competition. So they had to defend their own virtual territory while attacking the opponent and capturing the flag in the opponent's territory.
And no flags captured. Yeah.
Do you have a game plan?
We do.
What's your plan?
Good win. Good defense. Take advantage of some exploits that we identified earlier on in the practice sessions. So hopefully they don't.
Basically, they were right next to each other. But they could not go the other person.
We're about 1 hour into the competition. How's it going?
Not so good, but we're working on it. The other teams take their systems offline hard, so our team hasn't done that much to do yet. So
one of the teams is actually managing their layer 3 connections very well. They're owning their terrain.
These are the folks from ICT partners who are running the capture the flag.
The mistakes that we see are people are overextending their tools, or they're
sorry, that needs to be coming out through the speakers.
There you go.
And you were full screen on that?
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Overuse of automation. They're plugging in a bunch of things, hoping that one of them will work.
So there's also the score and defense score.
You think you did well, not so well? Were there any surprises? You didn't know what to expect
With the captain for the Mount Jackson.
But we did know that we wanted a balanced team.
I'm surprised we weren't able to exit the boxes.
So he figures that Mount SAC played excellent defense. They also had a forensics component through the DoD Cyber Crime Center, where they had the mannequin and you had to find the forensic evidence on the mannequin. So that extends with some of the competition. So it was a pretty cool final. Okay, so go back to here. And Mount SAC defeated DePaul University. I guess you can call it an upset when a 2-year school beats a 4-year school. What this team did for the week before the competition, they were at their school in the lab till midnight every night. And they were keeping the instructor there. So the instructor had the same commitment the team had, and that paid off. I think DePaul had finals just before the colloquium that they impacted them. So we had some recommendations coming out of it. We did a pretty good job of assessment. We had John Sainer develop instruments for getting feedback from the competitors on a weekly basis. So these were some of the overall recommendations from the spring pilot. So they were saying, actually have the competitions list frequently during the season. Consider making some of them easier, make logistical issues easier, adjust the scheduling so that there wasn't a conflict with exams. That's kind of an ongoing situation with these competitions, whether it's the CCDC or whether it's what we're doing with NCL or even at the high school level where we work with teams on Cyber Patriot and the SAT exams get in the way of kids competing. So there's always conflicts. And offense and defense, which was interesting. Kids want to learn offense as well as defense. And it's my exposure with industry is that offense is a skill worth learning. So we went into the fall pilot, individuals. We had lab exercises to try and get the kids up to speed. 16 Security Plus labs that they could go into anytime. They could spend as much time as they wanted going through lab exercises. And then the 3 competitions during the season were equivalent to exams. So it's like 16 weekly labs condensed and 3 exams, except we called them competitions. So the first round contestants had to locate 21 flags. Each target was a different web application. It really was focused on web security in competition 1. So the clown was, if you found a clown, you knew that you were onto something. That's what. Here we have a flag example. Each target was accessible over HTTPS. Unique SSL certificate. Within each certificate, there was a OU field. You can obtain the flag directly through the web browser. And here you see, when you saw the NCL, that was the flag. You had to find that, and you had to report it. And that's how you got scores. The second round, we had more flags. We expanded the knowledge that you had to demonstrate. Windows security, Linux authentication, Apache logs, network data captured. What we did in competition 2 that was much better is that with competition 1, they had no time to get used to the environment. So we just threw them into it for the competition. They weren't very happy with that because a lot of them struggled to understand the environment before they could even try and get the flags. So for competitions 2 and 3, we gave them practice time in the environment. Basically for the week before the event, we said you can go in and get used to it. That seemed to make a big difference. Is that true?
Yeah, but my students didn't do it. Nope. I'll tell you what, he's given the overview of the real world. what it was like to be in the pits.
So it's really interesting from my perspective, because I wasn't participating in the competition. I was trying to help manage the competition, but I was getting plenty of feedback from students that I knew and faculty that I knew, and I made new friends, students and faculty that were hesitant to tell me what was going on and tell me some that was good, but much more that they were having problems with. And Doug and I had some really good conversations during the competitions in terms of what the kids are trying to do, what they're having trouble doing. The first competition one, I don't know how else to say it, that it was a mess. It was really tough for kids to get used to competition one. And
so let me jump in here. Our students, we were all set up, we prepared, we were 2 hours early, we were all ready to go. And we got the login, and these are technical issues, but we got the emails came, and they were different. You had the URL in one, and the login ID in another. And so we got thrown into this virtual world. So for the first, I think it was an hour and a half, we're running around trying to find out where the actual competition is. So you're like the phone company, right? If the phone company, if everything's working, nobody would bother him. But he was getting bombarded, and you know, it all worked out by the third time, or the third go round. But
so I really appreciate those who stuck with it. Who had all that frustration and allowed us to make it better.
And you did. I will say it was fantastic by the third round. But let me let you continue.
Okay. So this was an example of a flag in competition 2. Your site was owned. The applesauce flag was actually, I think, the big point flag. There are flags that were worth different numbers of points, and this was a very difficult flag.
We didn't get that one.
So it says this requires the player to perform data carving on the network traffic to extract the image. The CCP extract utility does a great job of extracting files from a network stream or live cap file. We didn't say much about the tools to use though. And that might be something worth talking about, because I think some of the students who played in this wanted to know exactly what tools do I use to play with. And we were pretty generic about that. We're basically saying any open source tool, the same way that CCDC competitions are run. As long as it's something that everybody has access to, you can use it. Competition 3, I think it started to get pretty good. We had a cryptography-related challenge, simple cryptography systems to complex steganography puzzles. There was a buzz, I think, at this point. One of the smart things we did is we ran an IRC channel during the competition. And we monitored it. iSight partners who ran the Capture the Flag competitions in the Amazon EC2 cloud monitored it. And so anyone who was posting in it, either other competitors could jump in and respond, or we could respond. And the IRC channel got pretty lively during the competitions.
And some people got kicked out.
We also had, maybe I should go ahead and show this now. We also had an auditorium where we could bring competitors in, faculty in for debriefing. And we started off not wanting students in there, wanting just the faculty in there for debriefing, and at the end of the competition we had students in there. But this was an interesting environment. It was a VIA Live. It was kind of a virtual world environment where you could go in and be an avatar, and then you could talk, you could listen, you could see presentations. So this is a snippet of the auditorium that we used to debrief after the competition. So we had 3 screens here that we could use. This one we had up on the web page. This one we had up with a PDF. This one we could actually use to bring up the scoring that was going during the competition. Someone who was at the podium could kind of control everything, could mute the room if they wanted to. So I think that's NCL Prez, which is Kevin Rogers from CypherPath, who was up there.
Oh, this is us.
You can see yourself.
Yeah. before we got kicked out.
I think CypherPath really believes the potential of this environment be positive for second tier. Because what they envision going into the future is selling ad space in the virtual environment. And at the end, when we did our championship debriefing, we had some of the supporters come up and talk about their products, talk about what they do. So I do think this is an environment we're going to try and use in the future.
So let me add, we weren't briefed ahead of time. The computer lab that we have doesn't have microphones or speakers on any of the computers. So people kept trying to talk to us, and we couldn't hear them, nor could we respond. So you gotta get what was going on. We were jumping up and down, and now you tell me that if people point at us, we get kicked out, so now we know what was going on. So I gotta tell you, it was frustrating, but it was fun, and it's now comical. So please continue.
So, is this something that you would use again, now that you know how it works?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, now that we understand this, absolutely. And I got to tell you, the IRC worked out well too, even though we got kicked out of that too. And I'll talk about that because it was part of the frustration, right? You're in this competition and you want to compete, but you don't know where you're competing yet.
You know, one of the things that, I heard back from our team was it'd be good to be involved in the planning and the, what do you think of having like students come up with maybe like YouTube videos or something like that of like you could get them involved and that way they're learning how to use it, plus they can use it to teach other people what environment you're going to use.
I think that's a very good idea.
Because they felt like it was all sprung on them.
Yeah.
Is that the way you're saying?
Yeah, I always felt like it was all sprung on them, but they really like to help build it, and and then later on you use it for the competition. But even
so, I'll tell you, for first round, I agree with Dan. I think that we need to have different levels of this, and I would say for the first level, no. But after you've played once, it would be nice to go back for the level coming or for the group coming that's going to play next to give feedback, right? So you've got like first-year students that are just starting out, they didn't have a clue. Then you've got the ones who've competed once or more. They can go back and essentially create a lower-level version of it.
I think the first-level students are the ones in most need, or the ones most lost.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, even if you use it as not part of the competition, but as like if you gave something to the teams where they could access the stuff and then maybe make a YouTube video that they could share with other teams, and they,
This is what another concept we have for NCL is that it's a farm league.
Yeah.
We wanted kids to start in NCL and graduate to CCDC, graduate to more advanced competitions. We tried to do too much in especially the fall pilot because we had a vendor who was offering to develop and host Capture the Flags. And there really needs to be a way of having kids enter at a beginner level and helping them go up a curve, which kind of is a direction I want to go in with these environments where it's more than even a season. It's a 24/7 around the year place where you can go to learn on your own, to have pickup games, and to have a library of videos that will help you.
Because I mean, the one thing we found with ours is that the more you involve them, not necessarily in the competition itself, but let's say prepping for the competition, the more you involve them in the things like that, they like to get that stuff. Ours invite their own vendors in, or
One of the things I don't like about CCDC is that it's too intense.
Yep.
There's too much pressure.
It's like a military exercise.
On teams playing. You play for 2.5 days, and DJ, you're going to find this out. Your kids are going to feel the pressure. But in NCO, we wanted it to be a kinder, gentler competition environment. Still, kids that get into it get very competitive. They take it seriously, even though, it's not one and done, even though it is a season. And so we have to find a way to accommodate both beginners going up a curve and those that really want to see how they can win. Yeah.
One of the reasons that our team didn't play in this is because they didn't want to play individual. They wanted to play a group team.
Yeah, yeah.
And they said we don't want to play individual because one, we don't have all the skills, nor do we have all the time. So we want to play as a group. And because this was an individual competition, they said no, we're not playing. We'll play CDC. We won't play this.
One of the reasons.
Do you plan to make this into a group competition, or you want to keep it individual?
We don't know yet. There's a need for both. Because what I don't like about the team is that we say to a school, you can have 8 kids play. What we were able to do in the fall is say you could have your entire class play. You could make this into a class project. And that gets harder to do if you're trying to do a team.
You can say 4 people, so we can choose 2 people to play. We can choose 6 people.
But if you have a class of 30,
but you don't need to throw it open to the whole class.
Well, so that was one of our goals, though, in the fall.
We're not taking the whole class. We're taking only 8 people, and that too not from one class, from multiple sections from different classes.
So let me tell you what happened with us. I think the sign-up was in August, wasn't it? And that was before our semester began. So I talked to Casey, so I signed up, but I didn't know which students I was going to have, right? So I sent an email, I think, the first week saying, if you want to play, you got to sign up now. And they're like, what is it? Yeah, do I even want to buy the book? Am I even going to take your class? Or am I paying whatever the tuition is, the $150, I don't know, whatever it is, per semester. So I talked to Casey, and he said, look, just sign up as yourself and just play as a team. And so we did. I don't know if you knew that, but I'll show you a picture, because I actually have a picture of our students. And I'll kind of bring that up. It worked out really, really well. You don't want to hear that.
So I really understand what you're saying. It is more fun for a lot of kids to play as a team. But one of the goals we have is to scale. And to say to a program, you can have this be a class activity.
You can break the class up into multiple teams. You can have 6 teams in the class playing.
It is hard to support a lot of teams. There are limits in what we can support right now.
But look, if he has 30 students, you're telling me it's harder to support 30 individuals than it would be a group of 5, 6, a group of 6?
In the spring, we created the CCDC environments.
Yeah.
We were creating from scratch, or if we had some stuff off the shelf. In the fall, because ICT was running the CTFs, we didn't have to create them. It made it a lot easier for us. If we're going to go back to a CCDC type environment, we'd have more overhead. We have the white team to think about with the injects. If we're going to have a red team, if we have 50 teams, the red team being able to attack each of the 50 teams on an ongoing basis gets very difficult. The need to, unless we really have automated scoring, the ability to score injects gets very difficult.
Okay, so you're talking about Pomona, right?
Well, I'm talking about each of the stadiums. We have 3 stadiums. We have a stadium at Pomona, a stadium at Cassie, and a stadium at Cyberwatch.
Okay, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, we'll continue.
Yeah.
Let's go through this. The third round, cryptography, steganography. So this is an example. The flag is in the image's metadata, and this was the flag was. So we had to go into the metadata for this to find the flag.
Didn't get that one either.
Then the championship. So we took the leftover flags, the ones that hadn't been captured, and we used them in the championship game. And I think we had 2 new challenges: web exploitation, network data analysis. And this is hard to read, but it shows the top players. So the winner was from Illinois State. Illinois State was the winner. Mount Sac finished second. DePaul finished third. So what we did, we had 16 prep exercises aligned to CompTIA Security Plus, 3 competitions. And the survey results, biggest reason for not competing, lack of time. 12% lost interest, 20% too complicated, 18% prefer team events. This was interesting to me. Most thought they were ready for such a competition. I didn't expect people to feel that way.
It's all relative.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, my comment is the Security Plus would not prepare you for this type of competition. We can debate that.
It definitely didn't help the competition 1. We tried to match it better to 2 and 3. Yeah.
Keep going.
That's what gets solved, though. Because we've got more libraries of labs for practice. That's going to get solved over time.
Yeah, for example, we have the ethical hacking labs now available.
Hacking, forensics,
yeah.
But much more.
But that still doesn't say.
Keep going. We'll talk.
I agree with you. I agree it's a real challenge. But there's a reason we want to do it.
I think what we need is a discussion.
Because we want the competition to be more than a competition. We want it to be tied to what you're trying to learn.
So Dan, the bullet that I'm real interested in is I try to support this community. Nobody wants to pay for anything. So how in the world are we going to figure out an economic model of sustainability? Because I've heard over and over students will pay.
So
the government will pay, but it's going to run out.
There are two ways that, off the top of my head, I see us going. One is product placement by companies, giving companies access to players. Same thing CCD does. CCD does with its sponsors. You know, if you come in as a sponsor, you can go to the job fair and look at the resume book and hire, look for talent. So the second one is an entry fee. Basically, if we can build up an environment that you can use year-round, kids will pay $100, $200 a year, I believe, to have that access.
$100 to $200 a year, though, you do per student?
Yeah, per student.
Pay for so much clicks, even if you got it out of the Amazon cloud, because of the complexity of the environments you're trying to serve. I mean, a lot of people love the cloud. What everybody forgets to think about is that cloud is a pretty simple offer. The CPU clicks you're getting is a pretty simple driven commoditized offer.
So you're saying that's not enough to charge?
I'm saying it'd be pretty hard to get 12 months of access to CPU clicks to multiple variable first machine environments.
I mean, one of the things I would look at is that we have all kinds of clubs around the college, and a lot of them have things they participate in that the club fees pay for. So, I mean, that's definitely a way. And we have a ski club. They go on really expensive ski trips, and more than you pay for it. And there's other types of clubs. So, I mean, there's money that the college puts aside for student activity called clubs. And I don't know if it come out to be $100 a person.
I like the club model because I really believe in the value of clubs tied to competitions. It's how we have formed our teams over the years.
It's a great way on the campus, though, to let people know, like, when we place someone in our club, it's in all the papers, and, just like the speech club, and they do something, the forensic club.
So let me give you the flip side. For our club, for us to get money, we have to go through 2 rounds of meetings that are 2 weeks apart. Yeah, okay, forget it. It's a big process.
But the other thing that you pointed out is that it's a lot harder for a 2-year school to have a robust club than a 4-year school.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, our club, we have 30-something.
On the other hand, it's a chicken and egg thing. I really think if you did have a robust club, it would do wonders for your program. Because I think
the club is such a perfect way to do it because there's a club day. So we can do cybersecurity awareness as part of our club day, and there's all kinds of other things. But it gives you a lot of face time to the campus as a whole. And there's a lot of good PR that comes on here.
How scoring worked, and this is something that I would like to have the opportunity to make better, because we had a concern over flag sharing that came up after the 3rd competition, and we deducted scores based on a judgment called by eyesight whether flag sharing was occurring. A way that we can avoid flag sharing is by taking a flag out of the competition the first time it's captured. But we need a lot more flags.
Don't do that. So this is where you need different levels, and we could debate this, but let's continue.
All right, so
too many
competition 1, competition 2, competition 3. The value, the percentage was 20% of your season was based on 1, 30% of your season was based on 2, 50% of your season was based on 3. So doing well in competition 3 was as important as 1 plus 2. It got more important as the season went on. Here it is, 20, 30, 50. Fall survey results, 82% would be interested in participating in the future. More than half of respondents reported using the lab exercises even though they didn't participate in the competition. And the rate of participation in the competition was a little over half in the labs. We had about 560 sign up for the fall pilot and about 300 that played in the competition. So there are a lot that just did the labs.
36 divided 71, that's the number of schools? 71?
Respondents, individual respondents.
Okay, thank you.
1/4 of the respondents reported using some of the pregame tutorials even though they didn't participate in the competition itself. Lots more suggestions. And this is something yes.
What you're saying is that 560 people paid $100 each. Out of which only 360 actually participated in the competition. Is that what it is?
Well, I don't think it's worth charging unless we offer more than we're offering now.
So I'm saying there was a fee to participate, right?
No.
So there was no
Spring was free, fall was free.
So that 560 was free.
Everyone who played in the pilots played for free.
Okay, but in future you want to charge.
I don't know if we're going to go down that road, but I think it's something to consider. For example, Sands Networks charges $999 to play, to get access to networks. So there is a business model out there now where you pay to play in one of these environments.
Well, how many people play in the Sands Network?
I don't know. Mike, do you have any sense of that?
No.
Yeah.
I think 10 minutes.
Yeah. But this is, I think, the coolest thing I've done in the last year. Because I loved to collect baseball cards when I was a kid. And this is the cyber version of a baseball card. So you've got the champion for NCL. Everyone who played in the All-Star game, we put up one of these, and you got his stats on the back. And if we do this year after year after year, it's going to look like a kid who's played baseball year after year after year, and I think we can get a lot of buzz. Okay. All right. Conclusions, we'll skip that and let's go into Doug.
All right, so I'm Doug Spindler. I'm from Diablo Valley College. We played, and I was probably your biggest pain in the butt, calling them all the time saying, we can't get in, we can't get in. So before we go down this path, I'm going to speed through these. I don't know if you've seen these pictures, but I was trying to, where I'm going with this is looking into the future. And what do we need to be training our students on? These happen to be pictures of Google's data centers. And if you take a look at the size of this room, this was like a couple Home Depots or a couple Costco's or more. You take a look at all the servers, here you're at the 26, 27, all of these from racks are just stored with, or filled with servers or disk drives. So take a look here, you go down all these aisles, that's all you see, right? So my question is, where are the jobs going to be? But more importantly, how many people do you think run these data centers?
I don't see anybody.
Right. And the answer is, I've talked to people, Microsoft has similar data centers. There may be 20 or 35 people that run the whole place that are techie, not including the plumbers and all that. So what this is telling me is, this is my personal opinion, I don't think there are going to be that many Microsoft jobs available. You know, network or server administrators, you're going to outsource this to the cloud, and you're going to have Microsoft, right, coming in and being your tech support guy. And right now, you can have Microsoft do that for $10 per user per month. And if you have 20 people, that's one service call to attack or 2 service calls. So I'm kind of reconsidering what we should be training our students. So my question is, what are the jobs that are going to be out there? Is IT pros? I think that's my next one. And my answer is plumbers, the guys connecting all the wires together, right? And then security professionals. So people have Cisco, Juniper background, as well as security, because those two, I don't believe, are going to go away anytime soon. You agree?
Well,
Okay, we'll save that for the end.
to an extent.
So the NCL competition, this slide didn't come out too good. So let me tell you, I've been hearing about the NCL and these different cyber competitions, but I'm way out here in California. And for 3-4 years, I've been trying to connect up with Dan and team and Casey and all these other people. And they're saying, we're just about ready. We're just about ready. And it's, yeah, but I got students. We want to do it now, right? So finally the opportunity came around, and we were really jazzed up, and I really ramped up my students. So let me kind of jump forward and tell you, here's the Saturday. I got students. We're all working together. Yeah, this is our lab. And I mean, look, they're all in there, and we're all like competing. And what was really hot about this is, I don't have the women in here, but all of a sudden somebody would go, I got one, I got a flag, and it was like, yeah, let's put it in there. And so we had, even though we weren't supposed to be working as a team, we were working as a team, right? You don't want to hear that.
Yes.
Yes.
How did you all log in with the same account at the time, or how did it work really? Well, I see everybody.
Well, hackers, what do you do? Everybody just tries to log in, and it worked, and so it was like, okay.
So with one account, everybody logs in?
Yeah. You don't want to hear that. Don't let him hear that.
I'm the commissioner.
Yeah. I mean, you know, look, I knew that we had no chance at all whatsoever in winning, and if we did, you know, I'd fess up and say, look, we have to be discontinued. But the thing is, this was fun. And I got to tell you, from all the lectures that I give from 6 to 10 p.m. where students are falling asleep, nobody was asleep in this room. It was so much fun. So what I wanted to show you is Dan talks about all this, you know, the flags. And when the competition began, I didn't know what a flag was. I didn't have a clue. So there were questions that were asked, like which account did the attacker log in with? And there was a file that we downloaded here. We loaded it up in a Windows Secured in the event viewer, and we started fumbling through it. And eventually somebody would go down here like, oh, I found the time. This is the time that somebody logged in. And so we placed in the time, and a lot of times it was wrong, and we're going, crap, what are we doing wrong? And then eventually it was like, yes, you got it. So I'm telling you, this was so much fun. So these are from the 3 different competitions. I gave a sampling. These aren't coming out too well. Anyway, so these are the students. So what I learned from this is this was fun. The other thing I learned is we should be teaching our students differently. Because now I'm convinced what we should do is get these files and essentially give students a little prep or a little information about log files, and then say, here is one, you've got a cyber breach, and what HTTP request method is used to face the website. And here's the file, and we all go through this as a class and use these as exercises. Instead of reading out of a book and trying to teach students from the book, what we should do is what the hacker community is, and give them real-world examples. Saying, here's the log file. Let's analyze, because isn't that what businesses are expecting from our students? And what I'm thinking is, once you go this path, then go back to the formal and go to the book, so then they understand the structure. Or do you think I'm completely wrong on that? It seems to me that we'll engage students a lot more by giving them real world, right? When I took driver training when I was 16 years old, what did I want to do? Read a book or sit behind the wheel? It's like, yeah, I'm up behind the wheel. Let's go. So that's kind of what I had. Let's see. So the thing that I would like to offer, and I kind of talked about this with Dan, is I think, and I'll ask you this, I think we need a mentoring program. And instead of having 576 people calling up Dan on the cell phone going, I can't log in, or where do I go? If we had a mentoring program that would be set up where all the phone calls come in to your mentor, or you work a couple weeks ahead of time and you kind of lay down what the groundwork is. Because I'll tell you, if that would have happened, this would have been so much smoother, and we wouldn't have spent 2 hours running around in this avatar room looking for where these log files were. But I got to tell you, it was a great experience. Dan, I bitched and complained and yelled at you, and Casey.
I appreciated it all the time, even though I got frustrated.
I did too, and I had students that were walking out of the room going, this is crap, and they'd run out of the room, and I'd say, no, come back, we'll get it figured out. And we did, and it was a wonderful experience. And I'm willing to be a mentor, and I'm also willing to set up, I think I'm going the wrong way. We did this for Microsoft, but I'm willing to set up a mailing list for mentoring or for students so we can all exchange information. I haven't talked to you about this. But we have one, I announced this yesterday, we have a Microsoft academic mailing list for MPIC. If you want to get on it, just send me an email and I'll add you in.
Great.
And there are about 25, 30 of us. But this is for Microsoft. I could create one for NCL and cybersecurity and all that. We're running out of time. Let me turn this back to you.
Questions?
Yeah, fire away. We got 2 minutes.
There's those sample questions like he had so that we have something to know what.
So what I would like is...
We asked for answers to the...
What I asked Dan was...
At least the questions. We can figure out what...
Here, let me see. What part?
This tape, if we could get this from you, then we know what to look for, what are things each of things for.
Well, go ahead.
Okay, so what I would have wished was if we could have had last semester's or last competition's file and then give us a clue on what utilities people use. And that would have been it.
Yeah. I don't see why you couldn't even have this year's. If you're not giving the answers, you're just giving the question and the type of problems.
Right.
Isn't that the idea?
No.
It's supposed to be a learning thing.
You need the log file. You need more. Because for first, I'm a 2-year student, or 2-year college, right? So the people who were in this, I was getting 17-year-olds, this was their first college class that they were taking. And this, I would argue, is overwhelming, even to people who've been in the industry for a while. So at least this would allow us to play in the sandbox and kind of play around and see what we're getting into. Again, I don't expect to win, but it would be nice to have fun and build sandcastles.
So what do you prefer? You prefer the CCDC style or the capture the flag style?
Oh, no, this was absolutely perfect because I can do this as an individual, we can do this as a group, we can do this as a class. And the other one you're talking about, Pomona, right?
Well, yes, it's the attack and defend with a red team and you're defending as a team.
I think if you gave out things like this and let students use this to prepare, I mean, they're going to be rewarded for the ones that really do it.
We will be doing a lot of planning for the next season, and I agree. We can do a much better job of giving people training material.
But